Have you ever wondered what some of the world's greatest ever footballers would look like as kids? Well, thanks to Jedi Master, he's used artificial intelligence and illustration to roll back the years and show us exactly what they could look like as toddlers. How many can you get? Here we have a short kid with growing problems, growth hormone deficiency to be exact. He didn't let this stunt his love and passion for football. His early talent convinced his youth clubs to help pay for his treatment and earned himself a move across continents at just 13 years old. It more than paid off, as he became one of the greatest footballers of all time. You know the score. One of the most talented athletes in his school. This young lad excelled at every sport he put his mind to. Football was his choice as a career, but in his heart, he yearned to play golf. Despite his inner conflicts, he put his home nation Wales on the map and scored some of the most iconic goals in football history in the process, picking up a golfing profession once his football days were behind him. Even from a small age, this child always showed promise to be a footballing great, but would always be in trouble in the classroom, demanding more and more, not just from himself, but from his superiors. When he didn't get his way, tears could be expected. His smile and skill on the pitch would get him out of most difficult situations to become what he is now, the star of the next generation, the Don of the playground. When he wasn't leading the playground football games, he was charming teachers with his smile or locking heads with bullies. He never had it easy growing up in a region of high crime and unemployment in France, and his parents were working long hours, but he kept his head down and used it to knock away any obstacles in life. Born into an impoverished family, this kid's drive and desire always led him to believe he could be one of the greatest in the world. Expelled from school for throwing a chair at a teacher, he decided to quit and focus purely on football. That twinkle in his eye saw him adored by millions for his glamour on and off the pitch, whilst playing for some of the biggest clubs in the world. There was once a red-headed boy from Liverpool. Despite his small stature, he had a big dream of becoming both a top-notch boxer and a star footballer. His ambitions were often met with laughter due to his bright red hair and freckled face. Despite the teasing, he never lost his fire and eventually proved all his doubters wrong. Even as a child, this lad was destined for stardom. Named after his father, who was also a footballer, who guided him through his career. With big love for his family, especially his sister, when he joined his first club, Santos FC, he brought his family their first ever property. He himself is now one of football's hottest properties. A child full of intelligence, he was nicknamed El Cerebro, translated to the brain. He could have gone into any career he wanted. His family were football enthusiasts, and in turn he was pushed in this direction. The persistence paid off, quickly becoming one of the shining stars of Spanish football, and eventually he won any and all trophies he attempted. This young Liverpudlian always loved football, and more importantly, Liverpool Football Club. Noticed by scouts at a young age, he went on a trial at Manchester United to pressure Liverpool scouts to sign him. Football could have been done for him when a garden fork impaled his big toe and doctors wanted to amputate it. His dad pressed doctors to avoid it, and we all know what happened next. Style, anger, brilliance, confidence, wonder, king. There are many ways you could describe this French enigma. Born from Spanish and Italian descent, he was always misunderstood. His family house was literally a hillside cave, which may explain the unusual traits and statements fans are accustomed to. Recognised widely for his talent, charisma and tenacity, he cut short his own career, retiring at the young age of 30 years old. With dreams of being an artist, this young baller did just that, making the football pitch his canvas. Even as a child, spectators would watch in awe as he graced the field as if he was painting a masterpiece or sculpting a work of genius. This continued in later life, as fans across the world watched in amazement at the quality of his art becoming the master of his field. This Egyptian prince, who would later become king, always stayed humble. The son of a farmer, he found success as a young footballer, but had to skip school to make the 3-hour journey to train at his club. Promoted to the first team at just 15, he had to be given a special diet and training program, as his muscles were not yet fully formed. From a young age, this icon always wanted to be a footballer. Despite local clubs deciding not to pick him up, he signed schoolboy forms for Manchester United at 14 years old, and became one of the famous class of '92. Also becoming one of the most recognisable footballers on the planet, not just for his skill on the pitch, but also for his fashion expertise and spicy relationship. This prodigy was in awe of his brother growing up, whose skills earned him a move to the Brazilian club Grêmio. After his brother's career was cut short to injury, he replicated those talents despite being one of the younger and smaller kids. He first gained attention after scoring 23 goals in a single game at only 13 years old. The world was at his feet, and the world couldn't stop watching his feet work their magic on the pitch. Irish heritage but Salford born, this young ginger lad had love for the sport. Despite having a lack of pace and dribbling, he made up for it with his stamina, vision, work rate, awareness and positioning. renowned for becoming one of the best midfielders of his generation, a credit given to him by many of his peers including Zidane, Henry and Xavi. He could have quite easily chosen cricket over football. This young lad struggled to hold down a club after being released by his current rival club for being a bit chubby and not very athletic. A growth spurt and his desire to improve himself saw him evolve into one of England's greatest ever strikers and becoming a living legend for his hometown club. He met his childhood sweetheart at school and they are now married. Growing up in the Paris suburbs, this rising star originally trained as a goalkeeper before joining a club at the age of 6 who developed him into a striker. Despite his small stature, he had an impressive first touch and lightning speed, which made him a force to be reckoned with on the pitch. His goalkeeping skills even came in handy when he was helping his country qualify for the World Cup. Born into a family of footballers, this young lad was destined for greatness. He excelled in both academics and sports, whilst overcoming the childish taunts around the chubbiness of his face, catching the eye of various professional clubs, and eventually growing into one of the Premier League's greatest ever midfielders. From a sporting family, his father was a professional footballer and judo champion, whilst his mother was a volleyball champion. He started football from 5 years old, but it was not his only discipline. As well as learning to speak 3 languages, he continued to study after school, as he went to university for 10 years to further educate himself. I bet you didn't know that about him. From a working class family in Newcastle, this young Bairn was never afraid to get stuck in. Growing up, he was originally a midfielder as he could be more involved in play, too often with his elbows. Following trials with West Brom, Man City and Newcastle, he first made his name at Southampton, before eventually becoming the Premier League's all-time leading goalscorer with Blackburn and Newcastle. Not going to be too hard to guess who this one is. This young Colchonero originally played as a keeper before switching to striker when his pace and finishing were discovered. Scoring 55 goals in one youth season saw him scouted for Atletico Madrid and made the first team at just 17 years old. Rather bizarrely, in retirement he has found a new love for bodybuilding, a quiet and intellectual kid. This ginger wizard used his intelligence to become a magician on the football field. Off the pitch, he used it to learn 4 languages as a child and become his own advisor. Despite failures and setbacks personally and professionally, he always knew his goals in life was becoming one of the most feared and respected midfielders in world football. Growing up in the suburbs of Rio, this young Brazilian dropped out of school early at only 11 years old to focus on football following the separation of his parents. A futsal star, he scored a record 166 goals in a single season at only 12 years old. Spotted by Brazil legend Jairzinho, he signed for his first club at just 13, before joining Colchonero at 16, becoming a phenomenon in his first game scoring 5 goals. Part of a large family in the Ivory Coast, this lad's love for football saw him move to France at the age of 5. Struggling to impress youth coaches, he went back and forth between France and the Ivory Coast, but still took his school life seriously away from football. He eventually went to university to study accountancy, before his talents were finally recognised, signing his first professional contract at the late age of 21. A technically skilled but lightweight child, this French baller struggled to impress coaches in his native land in his youth. That was until he was spotted by Spanish scouts at the age of 14, who convinced his parents to allow him to move to the Basque Country in his teens. From there, he quickly established himself as one of the most exciting young prospects in Spanish football, and quickly became one of the most sought-after players in world football. From birth, this Dutchman was given aspirations to become a football star after being named after Scotsman Denis Law. Starring for his childhood club from the age of 6, he went on to play for some of Europe's most respected teams, winning trophies everywhere he went. Despite claiming invincibility, he carried a fear of flying, which impacted a career that could have taken him to yet another level. The son of an electrician and a housekeeper, this lad always knew how to keep the house in order. Despite dreaming of being a footballer, his second dream was to be a lorry driver so he could travel the world. Initially featuring in goal at the recommendation of his mother, he later switched to a forward role through the advice of his brothers. That advice paid off, as he became one of Italy's and Juventus's most prolific strikers in history. A poor upbringing in the favelas of Brazil, poverty called bow-leggedness, and malnourishment, which saw many clubs deeming him too weak to play professionally. Working odd jobs to help his family, he remained dedicated to football, playing for the youth team of his local club, Santa Cruz, before rising up the leagues in Brazil, before eventually moving to Europe. His dedication paid off when he won a Ballon d'Or, becoming only the second Brazilian to do so at the time. This young Great Dane was a youth prodigy between the sticks. After first playing at 8 years old, his team went on an unbeaten run of 2.5 years before being picked up by the largest youth football schemes in Denmark. His dream of becoming a footballing great was not easy, holding down jobs as a factory worker, cleaner and salesman before military service came calling. Then came his first professional football contract with Brondby before he etched his name into footballing glory. There you have a collection of some of the most revered footballers as kids. How many did you get? Let us know in the comments, and remember to drop a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We're always here to give you sport.